You've been up for a while now, haven't you? It's the kind of night where time stops meaning anything. Hours pass, but your mind doesn't quiet. Maybe you're not even sure why. Just a buzzing under the skin, a heaviness behind the eyes. Maybe it's anxiety, or that quiet, familiar sadness that has no name but always shows up after midnight. Maybe you're carrying trauma, old wounds that the world never saw, but that you still feel. Or maybe it's your brain refusing to slow down, thought after thought, crashing into each other like waves in a storm. You don't need a reason. You don't need to justify anything. You're here now, and I see you. There's no pressure in this space, no timeline, no achievement, just a voice and a place to rest your mind for a while. So, let's leave the real world behind. Close your eyes, if you want, or just breathe. Let the light from your phone screen fade into background noise. Let your thoughts stretch out like limbs, waking from a long, heavy sleep. You're in another place now. Another time. It smells of smoke, of damp straw, of bodies packed too close. The walls are thick stone and the air is heavy with winter and hunger. You don't remember how long you've been inside the city. Maybe a month, maybe 3. No one does anymore. The days blur. The bells stopped ringing. The grain ran out last week. You're not a knight, not a hero. You're no one they'd write songs about. You're just one of the townsfolk, a body among bodies, a name no one remembers, even as they sit shoulder to shoulder with you in the freezing dark. Outside the walls, the enemy waits. You never see them, not really. Just distant banners on a hill, and sometimes the thud of a stone crashing into a gate that hasn't broken yet. Maybe you were a baker once, or helped in the stables, or just carried buckets back and forth without ever being asked your name. But now you wait. You try not to breathe too deeply. The air is thick with too many people, too little food. Someone whispers that there's talk of surrender. Someone else says the castle will never fall. You don't care either way. You're tired. You're hungry. Your fingers are cold, even under your cloak, and the candlelight barely reaches your corner of the room. But you're still here, and sometimes that's enough. If this quiet moment helps, if it slows your breathing, even just a little, you're welcome to like or subscribe. No pressure, only if it feels gentle to do so. For now, just check in with your body. Where are your shoulders? Can they drop just an inch? Is your jaw tight? Let it loosen. Are you sitting up, phone in hand, curled on your side, or sprawled on your back in the dark? Whatever shape you're in, you're doing okay. You've made it through the day, and now the night is here. Try turning off the light. Let the glow of the screen dim and the room become a quiet cavern. Let the tension leave slow and soft. You don't need to fall asleep, just stay. Just listen. Let's begin tonight's story. A day in a siege where you're not the knight. You're the one surviving. You wake up before the sun, but not because you want to. Something cold dripped on your forehead from the cracked ceiling above. Again. You wipe it away with a sleeve that already smells like turnip skin and wet rope. It's not raining outside. Not really, but the air is heavy and the roof leaks anyway. You lie still for a few seconds, wrapped in a blanket stiff with days of damp, and listen. There's nothing to hear. No carts, no bells, no clatter of morning bread ovens. Just the distant creak of the city's outer gate shifting in the wind, like it's still pretending it opens for anyone anymore. You know better. That gate hasn't opened in 34 days. You sit up slowly, your joints protesting more than usual. Your back aches. Your knees ache. Even your hair hurts somehow. You reach for your boots, but pause. They're still wet from yesterday. You decide to give them another hour of drying, which really means hoping they no longer squish when you step. Instead, you shuffle across the straw-covered floor in socks that have become more whole than fabric. You pull open your little cupboard, which contains exactly what you expected, a wedge of yesterday's bread, gone stiff as a rock and twice as threatening. You hold it up to the light and wonder, not for the first time, whether you could shave with it. You gnaw on one corner. Your teeth object. You chew anyway, because chewing gives you something to do with your face, and your stomach stopped being picky 2 weeks ago. Fun fact, during real medieval sieges, civilians often ate bread made from crushed peas, tree bark, and even powdered bones. You don't know what's in yours. You stopped asking after day 20. You hear footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, not marching. Just someone walking like their shoes hate them. You open your door and peek out. The street is quiet, muddy, too quiet for a place with hundreds of people trapped together. You used to hear children playing even after things got bad, but now they're quiet too. You don't know where they go during the day. Maybe nowhere. Maybe they're hiding. You can't blame them. You spot old Martin across the street. He's sitting on his usual step, staring at nothing, one eye cloudy, the other suspiciously sharp. He's chewing something, but you don't want to know what. He sees you, nods, and holds up a hand, not waving, just showing you he still has 5 fingers. You nod back. That's how most greetings go now. You tuck your bread under your arm like a prized possession and walk toward the courtyard. Your boots squish when you finally put them on. So much for drying. You try not to limp. You fail. At the center of the courtyard is the well, or what used to be the well. Now it's just a circle of worn stones and a wooden bucket that's been lowered so often it squeaks like a trapped animal. You get in line behind 3 others. No one speaks. You hold your cup. Your turn comes. You lower the bucket. Listen to it scrape stone for too long. When it comes up, it holds a few inches of water. Barely. You pour some into your cup. It's cloudy. Has a taste like rust and secrets. You drink anyway? Jenkins. No, not Jenkins. He left 2 days ago. Someone else with a similar face is watching you. You nod. They nod. Again, no words. It's too early for that kind of commitment. The courtyard used to have stalls. Sellers, bakers, fruit vendors. You remember shouting laughter, the clink of coins. Now there's just quiet and old women whispering near the fountain, which hasn't held water since the siege began. You walk past them. You don't mean to listen, but you do. Rat meat's cleaner than you'd think. No, I swear he had apples. The baker's son gone vanished. Maybe they found the tunnel. You keep walking. Someone leans out a second-story window, dumps a bowl of gray water into the street. It lands with a splat near your foot. You don't flinch. You haven't flinched since the 5th bombardment. You see a knight, not up close. He's riding through the inner square on a big horse with cleaner hooves than your hands. His armor gleams just slightly, even through the grime. He's eating something, a pear, an apple. It's hard to tell. He finishes and throws the core over his shoulder. It bounces, once lands in the mud. No one goes to pick it up. Not because they're proud, because they know he'd turn around and laugh. The night passes. You glare at the back of his horse. You head home. On the way, you pass the alley where you saw someone boiling something yesterday. You hoped it was soup. You were wrong. You smelled boiled leather, shoelaces, probably, maybe belt. Someone said that boiling leather softens it just enough to chew. They were right. You tried it last week. You step over a broken jug, over an unmoving cat, over something else you don't identify. You reach your door. Inside the room smells like mold and patience. You sit, bite your bread again. It's still awful, but it's yours. You take another sip of water. You breathe. And for now, that's enough. Section 2. You decide it's time to check the wall. Not because you've been asked. Not because anyone expects anything from you anymore. But because staring out into the distance, even if it's just to see more trees and more smoke, makes you feel like you're still part of something bigger than your stomach. The stairs up are crooked and uneven. Your knees hate you for every step, but they don't have the authority to stop you. The stone is cold beneath your soles. Your left boot squeaks a high-pitched complaint with every rise, like it also disapproves of your motivation. You reach the parapet, and there it is, the outside. Fields that used to be green now, dusted with ash. The occasional black feather spiraling through the air. And in the very far distance, past the no-man's land of broken carts and burnt-out fences, a line of tents, banners, flags that shift like lazy hands in the wind. The enemy, still there, still waiting. Historians still argue whether this particular siege lasted 39 or 41 days. You don't care. You stopped counting after 22. Beside you, a guard leans against the wall, crossbow slack in his grip. He's chewing something that smells like dried root. His helmet is too big. His eyes are too small. You nod. He doesn't. Silence stretches. You ask, anything move? He shrugs. They're building something. You glance. A scaffold. A tower. You squint. Looks rickety. Yeah. Hope it collapses. Yeah. And that's the full conversation. You lean on the wall. The stone is cold, but it's solid. It hasn't crumbled yet. That feels like an achievement. There is a rumor, always a rumor, that reinforcements are coming. that someone somewhere still remembers this town exists, that the king or duke or whoever it is this month has sent word to march, but no one's seen a rider in weeks. The last messenger was a child. She didn't come back. You stare at the enemy camp, little dots of people moving like ants. They probably have soup. You try not to think about it. A sudden gust of wind catches your hood, flapping it like a broken flag. You pull it down, tucking the edge beneath your collar. The fabric itches, always has. You scratch your neck, wince, lice again. You make a mental note to borrow boiling water from the tanner's wife if she hasn't used it all on her boots. You watch as a flock of birds scatters over the hills, disturbed by something you can't see. You wonder what it's like to fly, to lift away from this mud and mold and misery, just for a day, just for an hour, just until your fingers forget how to count rationed bites of bread. The guard beside you sneezes, doesn't cover his mouth. You take 2 steps away casually. Fun fact, medieval towns under siege often became breeding grounds for disease, not just due to corpses or rot, but overcrowding bad air and communal wells. Some people died of plague before swords even touched them. Below in the town square, someone is shouting, not angrily, just a kind of loud desperation. A barter gone wrong, maybe, or a warning. You don't bother looking. If it were serious, the bell would ring, except it wouldn't. The bell was taken down last week and melted for scrap or eaten. You aren't sure anymore. You rest your arms on the stone and let your head fall forward. Close your eyes. Breathe through your mouth. Try not to smell the tannery 2 streets away. It doesn't help. You think about breakfast. You think about breakfast from before. Fresh eggs, hot cheese, bread that didn't break teeth. You think about the innkeeper's daughter. She had a laugh like sunlight. You haven't heard it in weeks. She might be gone, or hiding, or just out of laughter. You open your eyes again. It's still gray, still cold, still siege. The guard speaks again like a stone rolling downhill. Saw a crow eat a frog. You blink. He adds, didn't even kill it first. You nod. That tracks. You stay at the wall until your legs cramp. Then you push off with a grunt and head back down the stairs, 1 careful foot at a time. The wood creaks beneath you. It always creaks, like the whole structure is sharing its opinion of your existence. At the bottom, someone hands you a note. No one explains. No one needs to. It's a list. Today's rations. Your name's still on it. You nod and walk toward the storage hall. They've moved it twice after the roof gave in. It's just barrels now. Barrels and bags guarded by a very large man with no visible eyebrows. He checks your name, grunts, hands you a pouch. Inside, half a turnip, a strip of dried something. Could be meat, could be hope, and a pinch of salt. You pocket it like treasure. You walk back toward your home, passing two people arguing over a rat trap. One of them has a rat in hand. The other has a knife. You don't stop. You pass a dog skeleton picked clean, a doll made of straw sitting in a window like a lost child, a cracked bowl with rainwater and one floating feather. You reach your room, sit, eat, chew, swallow, think, and wait. Because that's most of what siege life is. Waiting. Section 3. You wake again in the middle of the night, or maybe it's still evening. You've stopped being able to tell. Time inside a siege doesn't behave the way it used to. You used to divide your day by bells, by chores, by sun, through the window. Now it's just hunger and noise, or the absence of noise, which is worse. The quiet always feels like a question that no one can answer. You roll over on your cot, a piece of wood with some old cloth on it barely wide enough for your shoulders, and feel something jab your back, probably that same splinter from yesterday. You're too tired to care. There's something surreal about living like this. You keep thinking it's a dream, or a joke, or a long test. You've already failed. Historians still argue whether sleep deprivation or starvation caused more mental decline during long sieges. But if you had to guess, you'd say it was a draw. Outside, you hear soft feet on stone, not boots, not armored heels, bare feet or leather soles. Light, hesitant. It could be a thief, or a neighbor, or someone looking for a corner to cry in. You get it. You've cried in all the good corners already. You don't move. There's no point in guarding anything anymore. You've got nothing left to steal, unless someone wants your blanket, which smells like boiled cabbage and bad dreams. If they want it, they can take it. You won't even pretend to argue. You stare at the ceiling, or what's left of it. The roof leaks in 3 places. One of them has a bucket under it. Another has a bowl. The third just drips into your sleeve at night and makes you feel like the world is personally selecting you for a minor torment. Thanks, world. You close your eyes again and try to count something. Sheep, maybe, or days until rescue, or how many stones you can see from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one looks like a face. You dream for a moment, half asleep, half hungry. You're walking through the market, only it's not the real one. It's clean. There's music. Everyone's smiling. Someone hands you a pear. It's warm from the sun. You bite into it and feel the juice on your chin, and it's perfect. Then you wake up with the taste of dust in your mouth and realize your jaw was moving like you were chewing your blanket again. You sit up, slowly. Outside your window there's a dim light. Not fire, just the moon, silver and steady. It's been kind lately, showing up when everything else disappears. You can't eat moonlight, but at least it doesn't burn your house down. You stand bones clicking like cheap hinges and stretch. Your tunic is too loose. That used to be a good thing. Now it just makes you colder. You wrap your arms around yourself and go outside. The streets are quieter at night. which is saying something because they weren't exactly a carnival by day either. Just fewer rats moving around now. Maybe they've finally gotten full. You head toward the well, not for water. It's been dry for days. But sometimes people gather there, just to talk, or sit, or share rumors, which are the only form of entertainment still circulating. There are 3 people sitting by the edge when you arrive. You know them by sight, not by name. A man with one eye, a woman with a twisted ankle, and a child holding a stick like it's a weapon. None of them looks surprised to see you. No one looks surprised anymore. Surprise is a luxury like soap or extra salt. You sit beside them. No one speaks for a while. Then the man says they sent a bird today. You raise your eyebrows. Who did? He shrugs. Somebody. From the North Tower. What kind of bird? Pigeon. Did it leave? Maybe. Maybe not. Sky was thick. That's as much as you'll get from him tonight. You nod. Pretend it matters. The child pokes the ground with his stick. When are the soldiers coming? Nobody answers. Because nobody knows. Because nobody's coming. You wonder if the child knows that. Or if he's still hoping. You envy him either way. The woman with the twisted ankle hums something. A tune you half remember. Something from before. It makes your stomach hurt. You close your eyes and let the sound fill the space where hunger used to be. It doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt either. That's as close to comfort as you get now. Fun fact, during the siege of Rochester in 1215, the defenders supposedly ate horseflesh dogs and even rats. Some say they boiled leather to make broth. Some say they just chewed it raw. Historians still debate whether these stories are exaggerated or not, but you've seen what people will eat when they're tired enough of feeling empty. You open your eyes. The moon is still there. The stars are trying. One of them falls, a little white streak against the ink. You make a wish, even though that's silly. You wish for bread and soup and a bed that doesn't bite back. The others eventually drift off back to their homes or holes or corners. You stay for a while, listening to the wind, letting your thoughts spin out into the dark like thread you'll never pull back. Eventually you stand, walk home, lie down, and try again. Because that's what every night in a siege is, another round of trying not to vanish. Section 4. Morning doesn't arrive so much as it leaks in. A gray kind of light that slips through the boards and cracks and half-smashed shutters, like even the sun can't be bothered to come all the way in. You wake up slowly, stomach curled in on itself, body aching, like you fought someone in your sleep and lost. There's a silence that isn't quiet, more like everything's holding its breath. You lie there, blinking at the ceiling, counting how many planks have mildew spots. That one looks like a fish. That one's grown since yesterday. You think briefly about how much easier it would be if you could just sleep until this was all over. But sleep is rationed now, like bread. You get a few hours if you're lucky, or if you're too tired to keep thinking. Your legs creak as you move. Your tunic feels damp. You're not sure if that's from sweat or the humidity, or just the sheer will of the walls to be unpleasant. Today is a food day, or it's supposed to be. The baker's assistant is going to try to stretch the flour again. Last week someone said she was mixing sawdust in. Someone else said it was dried lentil husk. You didn't taste the difference. Whatever it was warm, and you didn't die. That's a win. You shuffle outside. The road is mud thick and clinging, like it doesn't want to let go of your feet. A chicken runs past half-feathered and fully rude, flapping like it owns the place, so you haven't seen an intact chicken in days. You wonder if it belongs to anyone or if it's just one of those birds that's managed to avoid becoming soup out of sheer attitude. Down by the communal oven, there's already a line. People standing with cloth sacks, old bowls, even a tin cup. You take your place near the back. No one talks much. The baker's assistant is moving like her soul left 3 days ago. She hands out bits of crust pinches of flour paste baked into the vague shape of food. It smells like heat and disappointment. You take yours and nod out of habit. Gratitude feels performative now, but it keeps the peace. You sit on a broken step to eat. It's dry. It crumbles too fast, but you chew slowly, trying to make it last. Fun historical tidbit: during the siege of Carcassonne in 1240, it said the townspeople deliberately threw food over the walls to convince the attackers they were still well stocked. Historians still argue if that really happened, or if it was just bravado invented later to save face. Either way, you can't imagine wasting food now. You'd throw yourself over the wall before you'd throw your bread. The air is starting to warm up. It smells like sweat and wet stone and the strange sourness that comes from too many people being too close for too long. You stand and stretch. Your back protests, but you're used to that. Time for chores. That's what they still call them. As if anyone's really in charge. As if the guild masters or watch captains are still functioning like before. Half the guards are gone. The rest just nod grimly and check that no one's breaking into the grain store again. Your job today is to check water barrels. Not glamorous, but important. If someone poisons one, you'll all find out the hard way. If someone steals from one, you'll find out faster. The barrels are scattered near the center square under a crude awning meant to keep rain out. It doesn't work. You walk past collapsed carts, empty vendor stalls, a cat asleep on a sack of rags. The square used to be noisy. Market smells, shouting, laughing. Now it's whispers and scuffling, like everyone's afraid to wake something they can't see. At the barrels you find 3 others. One is old enough to remember the last siege. One is young enough to still think this is temporary. One is just there for the water. No one smiles. You take a bucket and start checking levels. First barrel low, but clean. Second barrel half full, smells fine. Third barrel has something floating in it. You fish it out with a stick. It's a bit of cloth. Could be nothing, could be something. You sniff it. Just wet. You throw it aside and cover the barrel again. The others are talking in low tones. Someone saw smoke by the eastern gate last night. Someone heard a voice speaking a language they didn't recognize. Someone thinks the prince sent a scout. Someone else says the prince is dead. Historians still debate how much local rumor distorted the reality during medieval sieges. Some think it was the only news people trusted. Some say it was just noise, desperate minds grabbing at anything that made the day feel less static. Your stomach growls again. You're not even mad. You just acknowledge it, like an annoying pet that follows you everywhere. You walk back to your corner of the world. A few houses are missing walls now. Some people are living in what used to be the tannery. It smells like old leather and regret. You pass an old woman knitting with twine, not thread twine. She's making a sock, maybe, or a hat, or just pretending to make something because pretending gives her something to do. She looks up and nods. You nod back. It's the closest thing to a conversation you've had all day. You get back to your room and sit. The light through the cracked shutter draws slow, soft lines across the floor. You trace them with your eyes like they might mean something. Then you close your eyes and breathe just once, like a person who's pretending they still know how to do that. Section 5. Time bends in sieges. It doesn't pass so much as settle on your skin slow and sticky, like molasses that forgot how to move. You sit with your back against the wall, the lump in the stone pressing into your spine, a familiar ache. You stopped shifting to avoid it days ago. Let it press. At least it reminds you where your body ends. Somewhere in the streets beyond a child is crying. Not the urgent shriek of injury, just the drawn-out whine of hunger or boredom or both. You tune it out. That sounds cruel, but it's not. It's survival. If you noticed every sound in this place, you'd lose your mind by noon. You take out your little pouch. Inside are 5 beans. You don't even remember when you got them. You're not going to eat them. They're lucky. Maybe. One's a little cracked. You don't care. You roll them between your fingers. A tiny ritual. Some people pray. Some people carve wood or whisper spells or argue with invisible friends. You have beans. They don't talk back. Outside, someone is sweeping. The motion is absurd, sweeping dust in a dust-filled world, but you get it. Movement is meaning. If you do a thing, you exist. The problem comes when you stop, because then you're just waiting. One of the guards walks past. He's a tower of a man with a dented helmet and a limp. Used to have a wife. She left before the siege started. Good timing, really. He gives you a nod like he almost recognizes you, but isn't sure where from. You don't return it. Let him wonder. The day's big event is a town meeting. It happens in the shell of what used to be the chapel. No one calls it holy now. The altar's gone, the windows are smashed, but the space is big and it has shade and people still sit in rows like memory has rules. You shuffle over with the others. There's a man arguing about grain hoarding. Someone else says the rats are stealing more than the people. There's shouting, not much action. A suggestion floats dig a new latrine pit. No one volunteers. Someone else wants to open the western gate and flee. That's met with laughter, the kind of laughter that sounds like crying's mean cousin. Eventually, they settle on rationing soap. You don't know who still has soap, but it makes people feel like decisions are happening. You stay seated after the meeting dissolves. The sunlight coming through the busted roof lands on the floor like gold spilled by someone careless. You close your eyes and pretend it's real warmth. Historical fact sieges could last months, even years. The siege of Kenilworth Castle in 1266 lasted nearly 6 months. Food ran out. People ate horseflesh, then leather, then worse. Historians still debate whether that worse included human remains or was just poetic horror, written later to spice up the records. You'd rather not find out firsthand. A boy sits beside you. His name is Tomas or John, or maybe you just made that up. He has freckles and 2 big ears and eyes that look everywhere at once. He pulls out a small wooden knight carved from scrap. Its arm is broken. He makes it gallop across his leg anyway. You ask him if the knight is winning. He shrugs and says, "Not yet." You respect that. The chapel smells of mildew and ash. There was a fire here once. Not big, but enough. Some of the benches are just charred stumps now. One still has a cushion on it. No one sits there. It feels wrong, like it belongs to someone who isn't here anymore. The wind picks up through a hole in the wall. It whistles, soft and low, like someone singing a lullaby they forgot the words to. You let your eyes drift open and close. If you sleep here, no one will wake you. That's the rule. Sleep when you can. Walk when you must. Hope only when you're stupid enough to forget what day it is. You eventually rise and stretch. The sun's moving again. That surprises you. You thought it had stopped. You wander down to the wall. Not the outer wall that's forbidden, but one of the old inner ramparts, the kind that used to separate the rich from the rest. Now it's just stone and moss and a view of the chaos below. You see them again, the besiegers, dots in the trees, a fire here, a tent there. Sometimes they send messages, sometimes arrows, sometimes nothing. That's the worst, when they vanish behind the smoke and you wonder if they've left or if they're just waiting until you relax. There's a myth, probably false, that in some sieges, attackers would let musicians play just outside the walls to torture those trapped inside with songs of freedom. Historians still argue if that's poetic license or psychological warfare. You kind of hope it's true. At least it'd mean someone out there still believes in music. You walk along the wall's edge, careful with your steps. There are cracks now, big ones. The city is tired, like you. Below, someone is painting something on a wall with crushed berries. Maybe it's a flower. Maybe it's a curse. You don't ask. You think about letters. Not that you have one. Not that anyone's sending them. But you remember letters. Once a man next to you got a note from his brother smuggled in. Under a dead fish, it said, "Hold fast. The sky is watching." You thought that was stupid, but it stuck. You get down from the wall. Your knees protest. You ignore them. In a small alley, someone has set up candles, tiny pitiful stubs in the glass jars. A kind of shrine. No names, just light. You pause there, not to pray, just to watch the flicker. It feels alive, more alive than most things here. You go home, if it can still be called that. 4 walls and a roof that leaks, but it's yours. You sit on the floor and lean against the cool stone. Outside, the wind sings again, and for a moment it sounds like something you might have heard in a dream. You can't remember what, but you let it carry you for a moment. Just one moment. Section 6. The nights in a siege city don't fall gently. They collapse. One moment you're squinting against the late sun, orange, low sharp, then blink, and everything's slate and ash. There's no fanfare, no transition. Just the knowing. People move differently after dusk, quieter, slower, like noise itself might attract something worse than hunger. You sit outside your doorway for a bit, knees up, chin resting on them. Across the alley, an old woman wraps cloth around her feet. She doesn't wear shoes anymore, says they steal warmth. Her hands are always moving, like she's sculpting the air around her into something less cruel. You think of food. You always do. Not in the way of craving, those days are over. Now it's like ritual. A memory you dust off just to see if it still fits. The shape of an apple, the crunch, the way a peach's juice runs down your wrist. None of it feels real, not anymore. But it's something to think about, and thinking is what passes for dinner. There's a pot down the road. No one owns it. It just is. Someone lights a fire under it. Each night throws in whatever they have roots, sometimes old cabbage leaves, bits of bone. You walk over, cup in hand. So does everyone else. No one talks. Talking feels like pretending things are okay. You don't lie to each other like that. The stew tonight tastes of smoke and bitter greens. Could be nettles. Could be weeds. No one asks. You sip. The heat is the gift. Flavor is a bonus. A man beside you starts humming, low, off key. It takes you a second to realize it's a hymn, or maybe a lullaby. Either way, it doesn't matter. No one tells him to stop. Historical fact, during medieval sieges, shared cooking fires became hubs of silent community places where the breakdown of class lines was most evident. Lords and laborers alike queued with bowls. Hunger was the great equalizer. Historians still argue whether this temporary unity ever influenced the rise of post-feudal communal movements, or if it was just necessity without legacy. You rinse your cup with a splash of water from your pouch. Just enough. Water's worth more than coins now. You cap it carefully and stand. You walk the longer way back, through the lanes where the rubble forms shapes. One looks like a sleeping dog, one like a toppled throne. You name them silently, as if that keeps them alive. You pass the burned bakery. The scent is long gone, but your memory fills it in anyway. You used to get crusts there, just crusts. The baker liked your face. Or maybe she was lonely. Either way, you got bread. She's gone now. The door hangs off the hinge and there's soot where the counter was. You stop there sometimes still, like the ghost of routine might keep your bones aligned. A cat darts past you, real or imagined. You don't chase it. It's better not to know. You reach your building and duck inside. The door squeaks just a bit, and that's comforting. Sounds you recognize help more than silence. You light a stub of candle and sit on the floor. There's straw beneath your blanket. It pokes your skin. That's fine. Feeling something means you're still here. You stretch your legs out slowly. Ankles pop, knees creak. You trace the outline of your boot soles with your toe just to check they're still intact. You'll need them again tomorrow. You pull your blanket over your lap. It smells like dust and your own sweat. You could be disgusted. You choose not to be. That's the power you have. Now choice in how you frame discomfort. You pretend it's the smell of effort, of days survived. There's a knock at the door. You freeze. Knocks mean news, or trouble, or neither. You open it slowly. It's the boy from earlier. Freckle face, broken night boy. He's holding something wrapped in cloth. Says nothing, just holds it out. You take it. Inside is a hunk of something. Could be cheese, could be wax. You nod. He nods. He runs off. You don't eat it, not yet. Not because of suspicion, because you want to wait until the hunger hurts a little more. Make it count. You lie back. Stare at the rafters. One of them is split light from the street lamp, outside catching on the crack like a vein of gold. You follow it with your eyes, again and again, until your thoughts blur into each other. You think of seasons. What season is it now? Hard to tell. Siege removes seasons. There's only now, and still now, and not yet later. A memory surfaces spring once you were walking through the meadow outside the southern wall. Flowers, too yellow to be real. You picked one, put it in your sleeve. It wilted before noon. That felt like a lesson, but you don't remember what. Another memory. First snow, laughter. Everyone ran out to taste it, like it was magic. Someone said it meant the siege would end. Someone else said it meant death. It meant cold. That was all. You shift under the blanket. One elbow throbs. No reason. You press on it. It doesn't help. A rat skitters across the beam above. You don't startle. It's just part of the night. There's a story, probably fake, about a town that survived a siege by pretending they were fine. They roasted a single chicken, again and again, wafting the smell toward the enemy lines. Historians still argue if it worked. You like to think it did, because then maybe theater is stronger than hunger. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to practice. Someone screams far off. You ignore it. Doesn't concern you. That's a skill now. You whisper something, nothing meaningful, just a syllable. You like the feel of your voice in your throat. It means your body still works. You let your mind drift. Try to picture the sea. Not real sea, Story sea, the kind with green water and songs from below. You've never seen the ocean, but in your head it always smells like salt and lemons. Always. You picture a ship, big, sails like wings. You're not on it, but you see it from a cliff. It's heading away. You don't wave. It wouldn't see you. Then the light fades a bit more, not in the room in your chest, and you let that happen. Section 7. Sleep comes in pieces. You don't remember drifting off, but now you're waking again, maybe for the second time, maybe for the 10th. It's dark still, though a lighter kind of dark. Your body aches in familiar places. That's a good sign. Pain means blood is still doing its job. You roll onto your side. Something cracks beneath you. Just straw, or maybe a bug. You don't investigate. The morning is technically here, though no one greets it. No bells, no birds, no market cries. Just the slow shuffle of bodies, remembering how to be vertical. You stretch. One arm fights you. Too long without moving, it'll catch up. It always does. You dress in the clothes you slept in. Everyone does now. Fresh linen is a memory, not a plan. Your shirt has a rip along the side. You fold it under. Doesn't help, but makes you feel like you tried. You step outside. Mist, the kind that makes your skin feel like it's absorbing fog. You breathe in. You tell yourself it smells like dew and not mildew. That's how you win the day's first battle, by controlling the story. Down the street, a horse cries out, not a neigh exactly, more like a complaint. You turn to look. It's thin. Ribs, like fingers pressed from inside. A man pats its neck, gently murmuring words you can't hear. Probably apologies. You head toward the wall. Not to fight, there's no battle today. Just to check. That's what people do now. They check. The wall, the sky, each other's faces, looking for change, for cracks, for anything that breaks the pattern. Historical fact: during prolonged sieges in medieval Europe, civilians often volunteered to man watchtowers, not out of duty, but desperation. The illusion of activity gave them hope. Historians still argue whether this behavior was psychological defense or simple boredom. You nod to the gatekeeper. He's half asleep. That's fine. No one's expecting heroics, just bodies in place. The outside world looks the same. Enemy campfires in the distance, lazy smoke trails, a few silhouettes moving, stretching, feeding fires. You imagine their breakfasts, probably not better than yours, but maybe warm. You sit on the wall edge. The stone is cold through your trousers. You press your palms flat against it anyway. Cool feels clean, like something untouched by mouths or disease. A bird lands near you. Black feathers, crooked wing. You don't move. It hops closer, then flies off. You envy it, then scold yourself. Envying birds feels too obvious, too poetic. You're better than that. Maybe. You chew a bit of the hard root you found yesterday. It's bitter and woody, but your jaw works, and the taste distracts your stomach. You hear voices behind you, two soldiers arguing softly about dice. One accuses the other of using a loaded piece. The accused denies it, laughing. Neither cares. It's not about the game. It's about the pretending. You rise, walk the perimeter slowly. Your boots scuff the stone. Each step marks another minute survived. That's the real calendar now. At a corner of the wall, a girl, maybe 13, sits with a sketchbook. Pages torn from old ledgers. She draws the camp beyond. Tiny tents, lines of smoke. Her pencil scratches are the loudest sound. You wonder what she'll do with it. Record keeping, art therapy, fuel for the fire. You don't ask, you don't interrupt. She's building her own version of control, same as you. You head down the stairs, skipping the last step because it always wobbles. That's knowledge, that's safety. Your street smells like cabbage water and oil smoke. Someone's trying to cook. Good for them. You follow the scent until it disappears behind a closed door. You return home, if you can call it that. It's 4 walls, a blanket, and a pot. But it's yours. More than some can say. You check the window, just to make sure it's still broken in the same spot. Predictability is comfort now. You gather things, useless things, but they're yours. A bent spoon, a rock with lines like veins, a small piece of wax shaped like a star. You don't remember why you shaped it, maybe to remember light. A knock. Again. You flinch. Again. But it's just the old woman with the wrapped feet. She offers you half a stale bun. You offer her the other half of yesterday's cheese. Neither of you say thank you. It's not a transaction. It's a tether. You eat in silence. She hums again, same tune as last night. You try to remember the words. You can't. That's fine. Historical tidbit: during Siege's communities, developed unofficial gift loops, acts of sharing, not tracked or balanced. Historians still argue if this was proto-mutual aid or just slow desperation made soft. She leaves. You remain. You close your eyes and picture not escape, but survival. A room with food, a bed with corners, a day where the sky matters again. You sit on the floor, holding your star wax, letting its faint shape press into your palm. You breathe slow, in, then pause, then out, then pause. Let it anchor you. You listen, not for danger, for patterns. The sound of someone walking in a circle above, the drip near the gate, the far-off shuffle of feet on cobblestone. You press your fingers to your wrist. Pulse. Good. You imagine tomorrow. Not the whole day. Just the start. Just the moment you open your eyes and remember your own name, or at least the sound of it. That's enough. Section 8. You wake again, not to a sound, but to a silence so specific it almost rings. The kind of silence that feels like it has weight, like it's made of wool, soaked through and thrown over everything. The air is thicker, than it was last night, and your breath pushes against it like walking through water. You blink, but the world doesn't change much. It's still gray, still dim, still waiting. You rise slowly the way you do when your joints have conspired overnight. Each bend and twist is an agreement you have to renegotiate. Your back offers commentary. You ignore it. Pain without injury is background noise now. Out on the street you notice something's shifted, not dramatically, no trumpets, no clouds parting, but the scent has changed. Less smoke, more ash. Someone ran out of oil or patience. You follow your feet without a plan. Past the corner where the barrel once held water. Past the alley where the cat used to sleep before it became stew. Past the shutters that never open anymore. There's a crowd today. Not large, just enough to make you pause. Bodies gathered around something. You get closer pretending you aren't interested. Pretending is easier when you're starving. It's a man shouting. Not loudly, but with that kind of practiced projection that actors and priests use. He's holding a scroll, or pretending to. The parchment's blank. You can tell from here. But the crowd doesn't care. He's reading a letter. From the outside, he claims. A promise of rescue. Supplies. Reinforcements. A king who hasn't forgotten. A general who knows your name. Historical fact, during the 1347 siege of Calais, false rumors of relief armies were deliberately spread by desperate citizens to keep morale intact. Historians still argue whether these rumors were hopeful invention or state-sponsored theater. You watch the speaker's hands. They tremble, just slightly, not from fear, from hunger. He's shaking from the same place you are, but his voice holds steady, and that's enough to keep the lie alive another hour. A boy beside you whispers, "Do you think it's true?" You shrug. He shrugs back. That's the real conversation. Someone laughs, a dry, cracking bark of a sound. It startles a pigeon from the roof. It flaps once, twice, then disappears into the fog. You don't look up. You drift away from the crowd, back into smaller noises, the scrape of a pot, the wet cough of someone too old for this much dust, a lullaby sung out of order. You reach the wall again, not the same spot, a different view this time. More tents, fewer fires. Maybe they're running low on wood, or maybe they're pretending to. You spot a banner, red with something gold. You don't know the sigil. That doesn't matter. Banners are stories. They only mean what people believe. A soldier next to you mutters, "They're moving their horses." You squint. He's right. Lines of animals being walked in lazy circles. Exercise, posturing, or boredom. You ask him how long he's been watching. Since the bread ran out, he says. Then, after a pause, so 4 days. You nod, not because you understand, but because it feels like the kind of sentence that deserves a nod. You walk again, this time toward the old church. It's closed, but not locked. Nothing's locked anymore. Locks imply value. Everything worth guarding is already gone. Inside, the air is still. Not peaceful, just still. Like the building is holding its breath. You sit in a pew with one leg shorter than the others. It rocks when you shift. You try not to shift. The altar is bare. The candles are gone. The icons have been scraped for wax and copper. But the ceiling's still there, arched and quiet, and absurdly high. You stare at it. It stares back. You think about praying, not to be saved, just to feel like someone's listening, but your mouth stays closed. The words feel like too much effort or too much risk. Instead, you reach into your pocket and pull out the rock with the lines like veins. You place it on the pew beside you, just to make it not be in your hand anymore. A woman sits 2 rows ahead. She's wrapped in a blanket, eyes closed, not sleeping, just closing. You match her posture. Maybe if enough people do the same, the room will forget it's broken. Historical tidbit: in the siege of Toulouse, in 1217, churches were used as psychological shelters, more than physical ones. People sat inside, not for protection, but to feel enclosed by something older than war. Historians still debate whether this behavior was spiritual or simply superstitious routine. You leave after a while. Time is difficult here. Everything is after a while. Back outside, it's a little brighter or less dark. You can't tell, but you hear music, faint, uneven. Someone is bowing a string, not well, but earnestly. You follow the sound. It leads you to an archway near the old well. A boy sits cross-legged, playing a lute that's missing 2 strings. He's humming along, making up notes where the strings used to be. You sit nearby, not too close, just enough to catch the rhythm. It's not a song you know, probably not a song anyone knows, but it moves. That's enough. You rest your head against the wall. Let your legs sprawl out. Let your thoughts sink instead of swirl. The boy finishes. He doesn't look for applause. Just starts over. Same notes. Same hum. Like he's afraid silence might take his place. You close your eyes. Just for a moment. You tell yourself it's just to listen better. You fall asleep before the second chorus. Section 9. You wake slowly, unsure whether it's still today or already tomorrow. The line between the two has thinned like everything else around here. Light filters through the cracks above in a way that says nothing useful, just enough to confirm the ceiling hasn't caved in. You shift your weight and feel the rough press of stone through your clothes. Your body groans, but your mouth stays silent. Words are expensive now, and you haven't earned any today. You sit up, not because you want to, because staying horizontal too long makes your ribs ache, not from injury, just from having too much time to notice your own bones. You blink slowly. The world cooperates. No fire, no screaming, no new holes in the sky. It's a good morning by siege standards. Outside, there's a different kind of noise, not louder, just new. A cartwheel, a real one, rolling. You haven't heard that sound in days. You move toward it like a moth to something that might be warm. There it is. A wooden cart wobbling on uneven ground, pulled by a mule with ribs like harp strings. Behind it, a man with a ledger. The cart is full of bread, well loaves shaped like bread. Whether they contain actual food is a separate question. Historical fact, during the siege of Paris in 885 AD, bread was sometimes made from crushed bones, powdered bark, and anything even vaguely flour-like. Historians still argue whether these substitutes prolonged life or hastened death by malnutrition. You join the line, not because you think it's worth it, because standing in line is the only kind of forward motion you get around here. The people ahead of you smell like everyone else. Sweat, smoke, and loss. You find it oddly comforting. At least, you're all decaying together. The man with the ledger doesn't look up. He just asks for names. You give one, not your real one. Just one that sounds like it belongs to a face he won't remember. He nods, drops a lump of crust into your hands. It's warm. You forget how to feel about that. You walk away quickly, not wanting to watch the others watch you. You find a low stone wall and sit. The bread breaks with effort. The inside is soft enough to chew. You eat slowly, not from caution, from disbelief. It tastes not good, but it tastes. That's enough. You let your shoulders fall. Let your body slump forward like a sack half full of mud. Across from you, a child with no shoes licks his fingers. You offer him half. He blinks, then takes it. Doesn't thank you. Just eats. Perfect. You rest your head in your hands, palms warm against your face. For a second, you imagine the world spinning forward again. Not fast, just forward. A bell rings, not the church bell, too bent for that. A pan, maybe, struck twice. That means news. You stand again. Your knees protest, like old wood. You shuffle toward the noise, toward the courtyard, near the crumbling barracks. A man stands on a barrel. That's how you know he wants to be listened to. He says someone breached the outer trench, not the wall, just the trench. No one dead, just mud stirred. A scouting party, maybe an accident, maybe a test. He shrugs when he says it like he's bored of his own announcement. The crowd doesn't react. That's what makes it feel real. You drift back, find a patch of wall that looks like it might not collapse. Sit again. You're getting good at that. Sitting. The sun tries to appear. It gets as far as a pale blur behind gray. You squint anyway, just to pretend it matters. A woman walks by with a bucket. Water. You doubt it. Probably scraps. But the sound of sloshing makes you thirsty. You swallow. Nothing changes. You remember the soldier who used to guard this wall. The one who hummed off key. You haven't seen him in 2 days. You don't ask. Historical tidbit in the siege of Antioch in 1098. Entire groups of guards would abandon their posts quietly at night, leaving armor arranged to look like sleeping bodies. Historians still argue whether this was cowardice or a strategic retreat sanctioned from above. You see movement near the parapet, just a flag being lowered, wrong time of day, or maybe the right one. Time's slippery here. Someone chuckles beside you. You hadn't noticed them arrive. They're drawing something in the dirt, a circle with lines through it. Maybe a compass, maybe a joke. They say, if we last long enough, we'll be legends. You say, that's the problem. They nod. Keep drawing. You watch them for a while. It's better than staring into the sky. Your legs begin to cramp, so you shift. The wall makes a soft grinding sound behind you. You freeze. Nothing falls. Not yet. You check your pocket. The rock is still there. You turn it over. The lines don't mean anything, but it's smooth, reliable. You hold it tight, then put it back. There's a sharp sound across the square. Metal on metal. A sparring match, no too slow. A weapon dropped. You glance over. No one else moves. You follow their lead. You close your eyes again. Let the world get softer. Let the hunger feel like background hum. You breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. You tell yourself that's what knights do when they're waiting. You are not a knight. Section 10. You wake again, though you don't remember falling asleep. Maybe you weren't asleep, just drifting eyes open, but mind elsewhere. That happens more often now. Your body acts like a puppet running out of string, and the moments in between stretch like old cloth. You sit up slower this time. You feel it all. Your back, your knees, your stomach, doing that quiet gurgle that no one has the strength to laugh at anymore. The air has changed. Not warmer, not cooler, just different. Like something happened, and no one's announced it yet. You glance around. A boy is tying cloth to the end of a stick. It's not a flag, and it's not a weapon. Probably just something to wave if needed. You wonder when he got old enough to do that, or if he ever had a choice. Your hands feel gritty. You don't remember touching dirt, but it's there under your nails and across your palms. You rub them against your tunic. It helps very little. Historical fact, during sieges in the 12th and 13th centuries, townsfolk were often conscripted to act as runners, builders, or even human shields, regardless of age or ability. Historians still argue whether this was a form of civic duty or merely desperation reshaped into law. You make your way toward the wall. The higher stones are cracked, but they still offer a view. You hoist yourself up with effort, ignoring how your muscles complain. The horizon greets you with more of the same trees, hills, smoke in the far distance that might be enemy campfires or just illusions made from morning mist. You try to squint for movement, but your eyes won't focus. Everything is too still, too broad. It feels like looking at the ocean and hoping to spot a single fish. Behind you, someone coughs. A wet, dragging sound. You don't turn around. You think of soup, not because you believe you'll get any, just because it's an easier thought than arrows or wounds. Maybe the kind with onions. Caramelized. You chuckle at that. a little too loudly. A man 3 feet away gives you a slow blink like he's trying to decide if you've finally cracked. You nod politely. The blink doesn't repeat. Someone hands you a small cloth pouch. You don't ask why. Inside are dried beans, 5 of them. They're speckled and hard and beautiful. You stare at them. Too long. You say thank you. No one answers. You tuck the pouch deep into your coat. Not to save it, just to know it's there. A breeze slips past your ear. It carries the smell of smoke and sweat and something faintly sweet. You hope it's not rot. You've learned that sometimes sweetness lies. You lower yourself back onto the ground, slowly. Sitting now is a ritual, not a rest. Every joint is a reluctant participant. A girl walks past carrying a wooden bowl with something sloshing in it. Her mouth is tight, her feet are bare. You think about shoes. You think about how you haven't untied yours in days. The wall beside you has names scratched into it. Not neatly, not in order. You find one that could be yours. You trace it with your finger. It doesn't feel familiar, but it's something. Historical tidbit. At the siege of Toulouse in 1218, a woman allegedly built her own catapult and used it to launch stones at enemy engineers. Historians still argue whether she was a lone heroine or a convenient symbol for morale propaganda. Someone nearby mentions that the well might be dry, not out loud, just in that half voice people use when they're trying not to make it true. You listen, but don't respond. Your mouth is already dry enough to crack. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, just to shield yourself from the color of things. You wonder if this place ever smelled like bread and wax and fresh water. If anyone here once sang while walking. You doubt it, but it's a nice picture. A breeze moves again, this time cooler. It makes the hairs on your neck rise. Not from cold, just from noticing something. Anything. A rooster crows. That's a surprise. You don't remember there being a rooster. Maybe it's just someone pretending. That would be clever. Sad, but clever. You press your palms to your knees and try to push yourself upright. It takes 2 tries. Your legs argue the whole time, but you stand. You walk past the old tower. Its shadow covers a patch of ground where nothing grows. You don't know why, but you avoid stepping there. You find a small cloth tied to a stick in the ground. It flutters slightly. Red. Could be a signal. Could be art. Could be trash. You nod at it like it deserves respect anyway. You take another lap around the inner courtyard. Not for any reason. Just because walking feels like resisting. You stop beside the broken fountain. There's no water, but someone's put a small stone in the center, balanced carefully. You smile, then frown, then walk away. You reach into your coat and touch the pouch of beans. Still there, still hard, still yours. Your stomach turns over, slowly like it's thinking about complaining, but then decides it's not worth the energy. A boy hums a song, just one note repeated. He might not even know he's doing it. You let the sound follow you as you find your next patch of wall and sit again. Section 11. The sun doesn't so much rise as it just begins to exist behind a smear of clouds that forgot how to be dramatic. You notice the change not through light, but through warmth, a dull creeping haze that settles onto your shoulders like a damp cloak. You shift a little against the wall and realize your left leg is asleep. You hit it with the side of your hand once, twice. It tingles back without enthusiasm. Someone is sweeping. The sound is soft, rhythmic, out of place, in a siege. It takes you a moment to realize it's not a broom, it's a branch. The leaves still on it rasp like paper. You don't ask why he's sweeping. You don't need to. A pot clangs, not in a dangerous way. More like someone's dropped a spoon inside it, then decided they no longer care. You keep your gaze on the clouds. They move as if being pulled slowly and with mild irritation. Historical fact, many medieval towns under siege developed informal routines, sweeping, singing, even small games, not because they mattered, but because they preserved a sense of before. Historians still debate whether this was collective trauma management or just stubborn human rhythm. You eventually stand up. Your knees make the noise of dry rope being twisted. No one reacts. No one hears. You're not even sure you did. The courtyard's activity has thickened, not with purpose, just density. People move like they've been told to walk somewhere but forgot why halfway through. There's a table with bread now. You squint at it. Hard crust, dark edges, shaped like something accidentally left too close to fire. You walk toward it anyway. You don't expect to be given a piece, so you're surprised when you are. A corner, smaller than your palm, still warm. You nod. The woman handing it out doesn't smile, but she sees you. You feel seen. That's enough. You don't eat it yet. You hold it in both hands like a prayer you haven't memorized. The smell reminds you of something round, safe and kitchen-colored. You press it against your lips for a second before taking the smallest bite possible. The taste is honest, nothing more. Just flour and heat and time. You chew slowly, half to savor half, because your jaw feels like it belongs to someone else. You sit again. You didn't mean to, but it happens. The bread rests in your lap, half-eaten, wholly respected. Someone is singing now. Not a child, a man. The tune is low, without words, like a hum that's been wearing boots. You don't know the song. You don't need to. Historical tidbit: in the 14th century siege of Calais, the town's musicians continued to perform each evening until surrender. Some say it was defiance. Some say it was duty. Historians still argue whether the songs helped more than they hurt. Your fingers brush the pouch of beans again. Still there. Still unneeded. Still sacred. A small creature scuttles across the stone beside you. Not a rat. Not quite. Maybe a ferret. You blink. When you look again, it's gone. You hear someone talking about mushrooms. You perk up. Not because you like mushrooms, because it's something specific, something named. In this soup of generalities that matters, you don't join the conversation. Just tuck the topic away in your head. Later, you'll think about mushrooms, and it will feel like a gift. You stretch your legs carefully, one at a time, like testing an old bridge. They hold. A pigeon lands on the wall above you. It looks around with theatrical suspicion. You respect that. You wonder if it knows it's inside a siege. Probably not. Probably just wonders why no one's throwing crumbs. You tear off the tiniest corner of your bread and flick it gently toward the bird. It watches it fall, then watches you, then flies away. You grin. The joke was on you. The air feels thicker now. Not hot, just tired. Like everything around you has sighed and is waiting for permission to stop holding its breath. You scratch your ear. It feels like your own again. That's progress. A child runs past. You count that as a miracle. His shoes are mismatched. His tunic is stained. His laughter is real. A man nearby murmurs something about ghosts. You choose to interpret it as poetry. You finish your bread. You do it slowly, respectfully, like it's the last sentence of a story you don't want to end. Someone sneezes. It echoes longer than it should. You look up again. The clouds have moved. A little. They're still unsure of themselves. You understand that. You think about writing something. On the wall. On the dirt. On your arm. Not because it will matter, just because it will be yours. You don't, though. You're not sure what to say yet. You stand again. Your back agrees this time. That feels like winning. You walk to the center of the courtyard, not because there's anything there, just because it's there. You turn in a slow circle, like a compass with no destination. You end facing north, or what you think is north. You nod, just in case it matters. Section 12. You wander a little now, not with purpose, but with the kind of idle drift that happens when your body needs to feel like it's participating in time. Your feet move across stone that's been stepped on so many times it's forgotten its edges. You feel a strange comfort in not needing to go anywhere specific. Because if everything is falling apart, you don't need a map. A man with a beard like a bird's nest is sharpening something. Could be a knife, could be a piece of fence. You don't ask. You just watch the rhythm of his hands. Slow, certain, like he's done this since before you were born. Maybe he has. He doesn't look up, but he knows you're there. That kind of silence feels companionable. Historical fact, during long sieges, villagers would often take on small, repetitive tasks, not for use, but for sanity. Polishing stones, untangling string, tying knots, and untying them again. Historians still argue whether these behaviors were coping strategies or signs of psychological decline. Most agree. It was both. You keep moving. The courtyard narrows into a side path where the walls close in like shoulders pulled tight. You brush your fingertips along the stone. It's warm, almost soft from age. You whisper a hello, half to the wall, half to whatever's listening. There's a smell. Not bad, not good, just thick, like soup made from memory. You round a corner and find two women tending a pot. They're adding greens, not spinach, not cabbage, just green. One of them hums, the other cracks a joke. You don't catch it, but you know it's a joke by the way the laughter sticks around. You offer a nod. They return it without breaking rhythm. That's something special here, the unspoken grammar of surviving together. You think of your mother, though you weren't trying to. You remember the way she used to stir with her left hand, even though she was right-handed. Said it made the food more humble. You didn't understand then. You do now. You keep walking because stopping feels too much like being noticed. A boy with a basket nods to you. His eyes are serious. His arms are strong. The basket holds something covered in cloth. You don't ask. You never ask. Historical tidbit in several recorded sieges. Children were often used as runners, messengers, or carriers, not because they were fast, but because people hesitated to shoot them. Historians still debate whether this was strategy or just hope wrapped in small feet. You reach the north wall. There's a ladder here, barely standing. You place one hand on the rung. It holds. That's enough. You climb. Slowly. Your legs are made of questions, but they move. At the top, the view is worse than you expected. Fields that should be green are torn. Trees stand like broken teeth. A fire smolders in the distance, too far to be threatening, too close to be ignorable. You wonder who lit it. You wonder if they meant to. You sit on the ledge. The wall's wide enough to not fall unless you want to. You don't. Not today. A pigeon lands beside you. You raise an eyebrow. It ruffles its feathers. You consider this a conversation. You break off the last crumb of your bread and leave it beside you. The pigeon eyes it, then hops once, pecks it up and takes off. You grin. You've made a deal with the sky. Someone below calls a name that isn't yours. You listen anyway. The name floats upward, gets caught in a breeze, and drifts sideways like a paper boat in air. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to not look. Historical aside, siege walls were often scenes of strange intimacy. Soldiers napped on them. Lovers met there in secret. Children threw stones off the side. Historians still disagree whether the top of the wall was sanctuary or exposure. Perhaps it was both. Your eyes open again. The clouds are different. Not better, just different. That's progress. A voice beside you says, "First time up here." You startle, but only a little. The speaker is old, face like sun-worn leather, eyes like puddles that remember the rain. You nod. He doesn't say anything else, just sits, legs dangling, arms folded. You sit together, not speaking. The silence isn't heavy. It's shared. He eventually says, "They always say it'll be over soon." You wait. He adds, "It never is. But then it is. And you don't know what to do with your hands. You nod again. That feels like truth. He leaves without standing. One moment he's beside you, the next he's part of the stairwell's shadow. You don't mind. That's how people are here. Quiet exits, soft arrivals. You climb back down. The ladder creaks like it's telling a very old joke. You chuckle, out loud, just once. At the bottom, the world continues. As if you weren't gone. As if you were never on the wall. You like that. You don't need to be missed. Just returned to. A bell rings, not a dramatic one, more like someone hitting a pan with a spoon. It's the sound of something happening. You don't ask what. You head toward the sound. Not quickly, just steadily, the same way water finds the lowest point. Section 13. You're not sure what the bell meant. Could be a meal. Could be a warning. Could be someone accidentally knocking into something metal, and everyone just deciding it was important. That happens here more often than you'd expect. The path you follow winds between collapsed structures and stubborn weeds. You pass a door hanging off one hinge and a chicken with one eye who seems to know too much. You nod. It doesn't blink. You're not sure it can. There's a gathering ahead. People in a loose circle, no center, no speaker. Just murmurs, heads tilting like sunflowers, bodies close enough to share breath, but not ideas. You slow down, blend in. That's the trick now. Be part of the shape, not the subject. Someone says the word parley. Someone else says again. Someone laughs, and someone spits. The same person, probably. Mainstream history says medieval sieges often included moments of negotiation, temporary ceasefires for talks, threats, exchanges. Historians still argue whether these parleys were genuine or theatrical. Many ended with resumed violence by sunset. In this case, you learn the enemy sent word, "Let us in, and we'll spare the children," which is the kind of thing you'd expect from someone who'd happily step on a snail and then blame the snail. Nobody believes the promise, but nobody dismisses it either. That's the weight of hope. It makes fools of the starving and gamblers of the tired. A woman beside you mutters, "They always offer mercy," like it's a favor, not a fix. You don't respond, but the words stick, like ash on your tongue. You leave the crowd before it disperses. Too many opinions, not enough shoes. That's your threshold these days. Down a side corridor, you find yourself near what used to be a chapel. The door's gone. The roof's half gone. The silence remains. You step inside, or what's left of inside. Someone's arranged stones in a circle, not for worship, for remembering. There are bits of cloth tied to each one, scraps of old sleeves, or bandages, or just hope in cotton form. You kneel, not out of reverence, but because your knees don't feel like standing anymore. You add nothing. You say nothing. But the space understands. Historical tidbit: during long sieges, chapels often became storage rooms, infirmaries, or quiet zones. People still entered them for rest, for secrets, for silence. Historians still debate whether that was faith or habit. Probably both. You leave when your knees whisper a complaint, back into the sun that isn't trying anymore. It hangs there like someone forgot to take it down. You walk until you find the edge of things again. The market that isn't a market, just a patch of dirt where things are bartered by nods and narrowed eyes. A man holds up a fish. Someone else offers a turnip. You don't ask who got the better deal. You stand by a crate and try to look casual. Someone offers you half a radish. You take it. It's soft, but it's real. You chew slowly, like it might be the last flavor in the world. A child runs past giggling. She's barefoot and fast. She's also holding a dead rat by the tail. You respect the commitment. You find a spot to sit a barrel, maybe once full of wine, now full of regret. You rest your elbows on your knees and exhale. It's not relief, just an exhale. A shadow falls across you, not threatening, just tall. A man you vaguely recognize, maybe a baker, asks if you've seen his son. You haven't. You say so. He nods like that was always the answer. Then he keeps walking. Later, you hear a flute, not well played, but brave. Someone's trying to remind the air that it can dance. You close your eyes for a moment and pretend the tune is something you once knew. Maybe it is. Mainstream fact: during medieval sieges, music didn't disappear. People still sang. They whispered lullabies, tapped rhythms, hummed old stories into cooking pots. Historians still argue whether this was resistance or routine. Most agree it was survival. Someone offers you a sip of something in a clay cup. You take it. It's warm. Not good. Not bad. Just warm. That's enough. You lean back. Let your spine curve. Let your shoulders stop pretending. You watch the sky. Clouds drift like uncommitted thoughts. One looks like a dog. Another like a mistake. Both vanish before you can decide. You think again of going home, though you're not sure where that is anymore. You picture a bed, a fire, someone humming in the next room. You picture soup, real soup. Someone nearby coughs. Not dramatic, just human. It's the kind of sound that reminds you you're not the only one still holding on. You think about tomorrow. Then stop. That's a dangerous sport. Instead, you pick up a stone. Small, smooth, shaped like nothing in particular. You pocket it, just because. The sun lowers like it's apologizing. The wind picks up slightly, just enough to lift the edge of your sleeve. You sigh. It feels like the day heard you. Section 14. You don't wake up, because you never really went to sleep. The hours just melted together like wax near a flame, soft at the edges, too slow to notice, too late to fix. Your body might have rested in the way a chair rests when nobody's sitting in it. But your mind, still pacing. You're still at the edge of the courtyard. You're back against the barrel that smells faintly of vinegar and time. The night passed with nothing more than a few stifled sobs, a rat fight in the eaves, and one brief moment of laughter, someone snorting in their sleep, probably dreaming of bread or falling off a roof, possibly both. You stretch. Everything protests. Joints crack like twigs. Muscles flutter like wounded birds. You're not old, but the siege is aging you fast. History rarely mentions the speed at which discomfort rewrites bone. The fire pit nearby smolders. Someone's tried to coax it back into flame. A girl with dirt on her cheeks and a stick in her hand is blowing on the embers like they're birthday candles with trust issues. She glances at you, doesn't speak. You nod. She returns to her mission. Breakfast is a generous term for what follows. Someone passes you a strip of something tough and brown. It could be meat. It could also be shoe. You chew it anyway, because it's something. Because hunger erases questions. Mainstream history notes that siege diets often included horse meat, boiled leather, or broth made from boiled grain husks. Historians still argue whether this represents desperation or resourcefulness. Either way, it's chewy. After breakfast, you're calling it that to feel normal. You help stack wood. Not because you're asked, not because it helps, just because stacking things is a rare moment where chaos can be aligned. Plus, it keeps your hands busy. Someone starts singing a hymn, off-key, slow, the kind of tune that wants to be hopeful, but ends up sounding like surrender. You don't join in, but you hum along in your throat like an echo that doesn't want to commit. Nearby, the guards change shifts. Not that it means much. Same spears, different hands. One of them coughs into his elbow and mutters something about his boots being more whole than leather. You believe him. You drift toward the outer wall. Not too close. Just enough to see the way the trees beyond sway like they're whispering secrets. You remember walking through those trees. That was, a month ago, maybe 2. Time here is like a puddle, shallow, murky, and full of insects. Someone calls your name. You flinch. It's not often anyone remembers names these days. You turn. It's Marta, the woman with the scar down her cheek and a knack for finding onions where onions shouldn't be. She's waving a rag. You think it's supposed to be clean. Need help, she says. Barn roof's leaking again. You follow without thinking, because fixing a roof is better than waiting to be forgotten. The barn is more whole than shelter. You climb onto the beams, careful not to fall into the hay that smells suspiciously of damp regret. She passes you wood nails, a hammer. You begin tapping gently at first, then firmer. As you work, she tells you about a dream she had. I was back in the village, selling plums. Only the plums were tiny pigs, and they squealed every time someone bit one. You grunt. That's horrible. She grins. I didn't say it was a good dream. Quirky historical note, many medieval people believed dreams during sieges were omens. Some recorded them. Some ignored them. Historians still debate whether they were divine messages, or brain static. The hammering calms you. Each strike is a punctuation mark in the otherwise shapeless sentence of your day. Tap, tap, breathe, tap. Later, when the roof is patched and your arms ache, she gives you a slice of boiled turnip as payment. You thank her like it's gold. She nods like it is. You pass by the well again. It's lower than before. The rope groans with thirst. You draw up a bucket. The water is cloudy but cold. You drink. It bites your throat. You welcome it. By the chapel, someone is sketching. You peek over their shoulder. It's not a saint or a battlefield. It's a cat. Just a cat sitting on a wall, looking unimpressed. You smile. The artist doesn't notice. Mainstream fact even under siege. Some people painted, sketched, wrote poems. Evidence survives in margins of books and graffiti scratched into stone. Historians still argue whether this was self-expression or a kind of invisible rebellion. You return to your usual place by the barrel. The sun is higher now. The shadows shift, but not far. You close your eyes. Just for a moment, you hear a bell again. Not loud, not urgent, just present. It could mean anything. You don't move. Instead, you press your fingers into your palms. Feel your breath. Feel the ache in your back, the hunger in your stomach, the salt at the corners of your eyes. All the proof you need that you're still here. Section 15. You're half awake when the shouting starts. Not the frantic blade-drawn kind, no. This is the arguing over turnips again kind. You open one eye. Two merchants, both too skinny to pose a threat, are jabbing fingers at a wheelbarrow that contains exactly one sad cabbage and what looks like a clump of moss, pretending to be lettuce. You don't intervene. This sort of theater happens daily now. It's almost comforting, like background noise on a sleepless night, meaningless but familiar. The older man calls the younger a thief with soft hands. The younger man retaliates by loudly explaining that nobody with soft hands would touch that cabbage. You silently agree. Later, the gate rattles again. A cart arrives, narrow, squeaky-wheeled, pulled by a mule that looks as tired as you feel. Everyone gathers. You join them, drawn by the faint scent of possibility. The driver, a boy with a crooked smile and mud in his eyelashes, announces he's from a village 3 days away. He's brought supplies, kind of. There are sacks of barley, a coil of rope, and miracle of miracles. Some soap, the good kind, not the melted animal fat and regrets kind. Real soap, white and hard smelling faintly of something like lavender, or maybe just hope. People barter. Someone offers their shoes. Someone else offers a pair of earrings that haven't sparkled in months. You trade a patch of cloth you found near the well for a small lump of that soap. You don't need it, but holding it makes you feel human, like maybe there's a version of you out there who still cares how they smell. Mainstream records note that trade continued even under siege, sometimes in defiance of commanders. Historians still argue whether these exchanges prolonged suffering or preserved civility. You tuck the soap into your tunic and wander back toward the inner wall. The sun is starting its descent. Shadows lengthen, stretch, yawn across the courtyard. You try not to think about dinner. Dinner ends up being a bowl of thin gruel and half a boiled root. You eat slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because if you eat fast, it's over too soon. The trick is to let your tongue pretend you're full, even when your stomach knows better. Someone makes a joke, something about how the gruel tastes better if you pretend it's wine. Someone else says they'd rather drink bath water. You laugh quietly. It's not funny, but it's real. After dinner, the bell rings again. This time, it's the prayer bell. You head to the chapel, not because you're devout, but because sitting in silence with others makes the loneliness blurrier. Inside, candles flicker like they're shivering. The priest is a woman with kind eyes and a voice like worn leather. She doesn't preach. She just reads. Tonight, it's the story of Job. You listen with half a heart. The other half is busy cataloging the warmth of the candlelight, the scent of old wood, the rhythm of breath beside you. Quirky fact: some siege-era priests began skipping the fire and brimstone sermons in favor of quieter readings. Historians still debate whether this was compassion or exhaustion. You leave the chapel just as the sky begins to melt from gray to indigo. A child runs past you barefoot, laughing. You don't know what's funny, but you smile anyway. At the southern wall, someone's strumming a lute. Badly. They're plucking at the strings like they owe them money. The tune is familiar, though an old folk song about a sheep who outsmarts a fox. You hum along, tapping your fingers against your leg. The player nods in your direction. You know it. You nod. My father used to sing it when we patched the roof. Did it keep the rain out? Not really. He laughs. Sounds about right. You sit beside him. The wood beneath you is rough, but you don't care. Music is music, even when it squeaks. He offers you a turn with the lute. You decline. Not because you can't play, but because you'd rather listen. You ask his name. He says it's Tomas. You repeat it. Tomas, a real name. Not just that guy with the weird shoes or the one who snored like a dying goat. He tells you he came here chasing a girl. She's gone now. Took my best belt too. You smile. Love's a thief. No, he says, love's the distraction. Hunger's the thief. You both laugh. As night settles, the wind picks up. You pull your cloak tighter. Someone started a fire in the corner near the smithy. You head there, not for warmth, but for company. The fire crackles. Sparks drift up like glowing insects. A woman is roasting something on a stick. You don't ask what it is. She doesn't offer. You talk about nothing. The weather. The mule that bit a soldier last week. Whether cats dream. The kind of talk that doesn't fix anything, but makes the night pass softer. You excuse yourself after a while. Back to your barrel. Back to your corner. The stars are sharp tonight, like someone poked holes in the ceiling just to let light bleed through. You hold the lump of soap in your palm again. Let its clean smell cut through the grime of the day. You don't wash, just smell. The wall behind you is cool. The ground is hard. You curl up, arms around your knees, eyes half closed. You're not okay, but you're here. Still here. Still you. Section 16. The morning doesn't so much arrive as it does intrude. The light doesn't stream in like poetry. It crawls across your face like an overdue bill. Your eyes open halfway. You consider pretending to still be asleep, but the ache in your back from sleeping against stone doesn't let you.
You shift slowly, one joint at a time, like your bones are negotiating with you. Cold has sunk into your skin overnight. Even your breath feels stiff. Someone kicks a bucket outside. You hear the clatter, then a muttered curse, then laughter. The kind of laughter that's less about joy and more about routine, like sighing with your mouth open. You force yourself up. Your stomach hums with emptiness, but it's quieter than yesterday, like it's given up complaining. You wipe your face with your sleeve. Your mouth tastes like metal and bad dreams. There's a small line at the well. You shuffle over. The bucket's wet. The rope is fraying. You fill your hands with water and splash it over your cheeks. It's not refreshing, it's just there. But it wakes you up enough to remember you exist. A child ahead of you drops their cup. It bounces, doesn't break. They pick it up and drink anyway. You think resilience has an odd shape. You fill your cup. It leaks slightly, but you drink fast. Cold water down a hollow throat. You wish it were something else. Ale, wine, milk. But it's not. According to chroniclers, medieval sieges often lasted weeks or months, sometimes over a year. Food ran low. Water sources turned muddy. People drank what they could. Historians still argue whether more died from hunger or from what they drank to avoid it. Someone hands you a piece of bark with paste on it. Breakfast. You eat slowly. It's better than nothing. Barely. A messenger comes limping across the courtyard. His face says he's got bad news, but not urgent bad news. The kind that can wait until everyone's awake enough to care. He waves at the captain by the tower. The two vanish behind a curtain. You don't ask. If it's bad enough, they'll tell you eventually. If it's not well, it'll still feel bad either way. A horn sounds once, short and low. That means patrol. You grab your pike or what's left of it. The wood is splintered, the iron point dull, but it's what you've got. You walk the inner wall with two others. One's named Elric. The other might be called John or Tom or just, hey, you've never asked. He's missing two fingers on his left hand. You imagine he's got a story, but you don't ask for that either. The patrol is quiet. Nothing new. Just the same broken fields. The same birds that somehow still find something to sing about. The same enemy flags in the distance unmoving, like they're part of the landscape now. Think they'll try again today? Elric asks. You shrug. If they do, they'll be disappointed.
You think they're as tired as we are. I hope they're more. He laughs. It's dry, almost a cough. You pass a spot on the wall where the stone's cracked. You remember when that crack wasn't there. A month ago, maybe more. You ran your fingers along it, once tried to guess how many rains before it split completely. There's a hawk overhead, just one. It circles, then dives, disappears behind a roof. You wonder if it caught something or if it just changed its mind mid-flight. You envy that kind of freedom. Quirky detail during prolonged sieges. Birds were sometimes eaten despite superstition. In one record, a pigeon was baked with stale barley and called noble pie. Historians still debate whether that was optimism or sarcasm. The patrol ends. You return your pike to its corner. It creaks as you set it down, like even the weapons are tired. Lunch is optional. You're not sure what it was supposed to be. There's a pot near the fire. You look in. You walk away. Hunger whispers, but not loud enough. You spend the next hour helping reinforce a section of wall with broken carts and mud. It's not elegant. It's not even convincing. But it's better than doing nothing. The captain walks past, nods. You nod back. It's the kind of nod that says, I see you surviving, and that's enough. Someone starts singing again, not the lute guy this time. A woman, maybe 20, maybe 60. It's hard to tell these days. Her voice is rough, but steady. The words are about a fisherman and his daughter and a storm that never ends. You sit, you listen, you let the sound stitch something soft into your chest. The sun slips west again. It always does. No matter how long the day feels. You find yourself near the smithy. The heat is a comfort. The anvil rings occasionally. Not often. There's not much left to fix. Or forge. You lean against a post. Watch sparks like fireflies. The blacksmith, a woman with arms like tree trunks, glances at you. You need anything, you think. Then shake your head. Didn't think so, she says. Most folks don't know what they need anymore. That hits. But you just nod. Evening sets in. You climb the stairs to the west tower. The view's no different from yesterday, or the day before. But still you watch. You watch the horizon stretch like a question that never gets answered. And in that watching you find a kind of peace, not comfort, not joy, just stillness. And sometimes stillness is enough. Section 17. The air is thick with the scent of soot and stone. You lean your head back against the cold wall of the tower, letting your eyes wander along the lines where moss has started to creep between the ancient bricks. Everything around you feels like it's been here longer than memory, longer than anyone living could remember. This siege is just the latest misery in a place already saturated with old ones. Down below, torchlight flickers in a lazy rhythm. Someone is boiling water. Not for tea. No one has that luxury anymore, but for the illusion of warmth. Steam curls upward like it wants to escape. You understand that feeling completely. A rat scampers near your boot, pauses, and stares at you as if deciding whether you're competition or just another crumbling part of the scenery. You don't move. It decides you're not worth the risk and disappears into the darkness again. Night doesn't fall here so much as it thickens. A slow descent into quiet that feels heavy and still. The silence is not peace, it's the absence of options. You're not on watch tonight, but you can't sleep. That's normal. Most can't. You wander toward the chapel, not for prayer. That left your bones weeks ago. But it's quiet there, and the stone holds heat from the sun longer than most other places. Inside, a candle is still burning, though it's more wax than flame now. You sit on a bench near the wall. The wood groans, but doesn't break. You've learned to appreciate that kind of loyalty. On the altar lies a chunk of stale bread and something that might have been a dried fig, offerings maybe, or just things someone forgot to take with them. There's a cross above the altar, carved roughly from wood. Someone etched initials into the side, one of them yours. You'd almost forgotten. Mainstream historical fact, siege chapels were often the last places to remain untouched, both because of sacred superstition and because the people were too tired to loot their own hope. Historians still argue whether these rituals were acts of true faith or simply the final habits of despair. You hear someone behind you, not close, just footsteps across stone. You don't turn. If they wanted to speak, they would have. If not, you'd rather not ruin the silence with something as loud as recognition. You think about letters, ones you wrote and never sent, ones you received and kept folded unread in your sleeve. Paper doesn't survive well here. Neither do promises. Outside, the wind starts again. Soft at first, then louder. It moans through the arrow slits, making the stone sound like it's sighing or whispering. You get up. Your knees argue, but not loudly. You walk through the lower corridor. Someone left a line of clay pots along the wall. They're cracked, some chipped, but they catch drops from the ceiling with perfect patience. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm is oddly soothing. You find a spot by the outer edge where the stone is warm from a cooking fire earlier. You sit again, wrapping your arms around yourself, not for heat, but for something that feels like containment. As if keeping your limbs close will keep your mind from slipping too far out into the dark. A cat appears. You don't know its name. No one does. It has one ear and a limp. It blinks slowly at you, then curls up nearby, like you've agreed to a silent companionship. You don't touch it. That would be too much. But you watch its chest rise and fall, steady. So steady. And something inside you loosens. Quirky, historical tidbit cats were common in besieged castles, not just for catching rats, but also for warmth. In rare cases, records mention guards assigning companion cats to particularly anxious sentries. Historians still argue if these were real military tactics or just creative diary embellishments. The fire has died down, but a few coals still glow like sleepy eyes. You poke one with a stick. It sparks once, then settles, like it's saying, I could still fight if I wanted to. You relate more than you'd like. You think about tomorrow, about what the captain might ask, about whether the bread will stretch, about whether the walls will hold. You think about things that can't be helped. Then you think about nothing. That part is harder, but not impossible. A bell rings, faint distant. It means curfew, or maybe warning, or maybe nothing at all. The meanings blur when the days all bleed the same color. You rise again, feet dragging but still moving. Back at the sleeping quarters, bodies are curled in every corner. Some snore, some mumble, some are too still. You find your spot, not soft, not warm, but yours. You lie down. You stare at the ceiling, tracing cracks that seem to form the same shapes every night. A dragon, a tower, a face you used to know. You pull your cloak tighter, not for warmth, but for memory. You let your breathing slow, in, out, in, out. The cat has followed you. It curls by your feet again, uninvited, but not unwelcome. Your eyes close, and for now, that is enough. Section 18, you wake before the sun. Not by choice. The castle has its own rhythm, and it doesn't ask permission to shake you from sleep. A low horn echoes somewhere above the kind that means get moving, but doesn't bother with urgency. You sit up slowly, bones cracking like old timber. The cat is gone. There's no real breakfast, just the same thin gruel ladled from a pot that tastes like the last 5 days. You eat it anyway. You always do. Someone nearby mutters about the grain supply. Someone else says it's mostly sawdust now. No one argues. What would be the point? You walk to the rampart with your helmet tucked under one arm. The air is damp, but not yet cold. You almost feel human again, until a stiff breeze cuts through your tunic like a blade dipped in ice. Out on the field, the enemy camp is quiet. Smoke curls from a few low fires. They're in no rush either. It's a war of waiting. Mainstream historical fact, medieval sieges could last for months, even years. Some lords simply built summer homes nearby to pass the time. Historians still argue whether most sieges were about military conquest or simply starving the other side into submission. You take your spot near the archer's slit, not that there's been much to shoot lately. You peer out, scanning the tree line, the makeshift latrines, the distant flags that hang like wet laundry from their poles. Your hands feel too large for the bow today. You stretch your fingers, crack your knuckles. Nothing helps, but you do it anyway. The rituals matter even when they don't work. Somewhere below, a pot shatters, followed by shouting. Then silence. You don't even bother to look anymore. Everyone's nerves are threadbare. You overhear two squires arguing about turnips. Yes, turnips. Apparently, someone stole one. Apparently, it was supposed to be someone's birthday gift. You smile without meaning to. That's what birthdays look like here. You glance at your hands again. They're calloused, yes, but also strangely unfamiliar. Like they belong to someone who lived here centuries ago and you just borrowed them for the week. There's movement near the enemy lines, just a rider likely delivering a message or pretending to. Some soldiers cheer sarcastically. Others don't bother. Everyone knows this dance. Quirky tidbit: during one famous siege, defenders once sent out a fat cow just to prove they weren't hungry. The attackers, not to be outdone, responded by catapulting bread over the walls. Historians still argue if this was real psychological warfare, or just two commanders with too much time and not enough sense. Your shift ends, but you stay anyway. Not because you care, just because you don't know what to do with free time anymore. Eventually, you wander down toward the courtyard. Someone's reinforcing the gate with extra beams. You nod at them. They nod back. That's the whole exchange. You pass a young boy with a wooden sword swinging at shadows like they're dragons. You used to do that once. Now the shadows swing back. Inside the smithy, the forge glows like a quiet heart. The blacksmith's apprentice is hammering out something horseshoe dagger. It doesn't matter. The sound is strangely comforting, predictable, unlike the rest of your life. You sit nearby and just listen for a while. Metal against metal, fire against air, time collapsing into rhythm. Eventually, you return to the wall. You're not due for watch again yet, but the view doesn't judge you. You lean against the stones and exhale slowly. There's nothing in particular to see. That's the beauty of it. Someone offers you a crust of bread. It's hard as stone, but you take it anyway. There's salt on the top, probably from someone's sweat, but you pretend it's seasoning. You chew slowly, carefully, like the act itself might carry meaning. And then you feel it, a drop of rain. Just one. Then another. You tilt your face up to meet it. The sky is gray, not stormy, just tired. The first few drops are refreshing. After that, they're just wet. You head toward shelter, ducking into a stairwell that smells like old rope and damp feet. You sit on the steps and pull your knees up close. For a moment, it almost feels like home. Not your real home, just the idea of one. You hear footsteps. A guard passes, doesn't say anything. You don't either. You think of your mother, of how she used to hum while slicing onions. You think of the bruises on your father's knuckles after every winter. You think of the dog you used to feed under the table. You think of things that don't matter, and yet somehow do. You let your mind wander, not too far, just enough. Outside, the rain thickens. The castle roof leaks. The stones sweat, and the siege goes on. Section 19. Rain finds you again before the bell. You wake to it seeping through the corner of the ceiling tapping like soft fingers on old stone. Your blanket, if you can still call it that, is damp and smells of wool and dust. It's like sleeping inside a wet sack full of sad thoughts. You sit up slowly. No horn yet, no footsteps, just the drizzle and your own breathing slightly uneven. You've begun to breathe shallowly, without noticing, as if even that might use too much energy. There's bread again this morning, harder than yesterday somehow. You dunk it in the leftover broth, thin beige, not warm enough to be soup, not thick enough to be food, but it softens the bread. That's the goal now. Outside, the mud is louder than usual. Your boots sink into it like it's hungry for you. You stop struggling and just accept it. That's what the older ones do. Acceptance is the shortcut to surviving. Mainstream historical fact, medieval sieges often turned into endurance contests, not just for supplies, but morale. The longer you waited, the more disease, distrust, and despair crept in. Some castles fell not from force, but from rot within. Today's task, carry barrels from the courtyard to the south stairs. Over and over. Why? No one says. Perhaps to make room for other barrels. Perhaps because someone with authority just wanted motion. You don't question anymore. That's a luxury you lost. Your back complains by the third trip. Your knees chime in by the fourth. By the fifth, you forget the number and just become the task. A rat runs across your path. It stops, looks at you with eyes that don't blink, then vanishes into a crack between stones. You envy its freedom. One of the barrels leaks. You press your hand to it. Ale, maybe. Or vinegar. It doesn't matter. It's not yours to drink either way. Quirky tidbit. During some sieges, defenders were known to hurl beehives over the walls or drop tar-soaked pigs to confuse attacking forces. Historians still argue whether these stories are exaggerated or just evidence of extreme desperation and creativity. Someone slips near the stairs. A knee twists, a shout echoes, then silence. Two others help the injured man up without a word. There's no discussion, just movement. Everything has become reaction, not choice. Back in the courtyard, you sit for a moment on an upturned bucket. Rain pools in your lap. You don't bother wiping it off. Your tunic's already soaked through. You glance up at the battlements. The guards look like statues, carved from fatigue. Their eyes scan outwards, but their minds drift inward. No one's really watching anymore. They're just upright. You're called to the wall again, not to fight, just to fill the space. Your presence gives the illusion of strength. Numbers matter, even when they're hollow. You lean into the stones. They're cold, familiar, like a friend who never talks back but always stays. From the enemy camp you hear laughter, honest, full-bellied laughter. Probably something mundane, someone slipped or told a joke about goats. But it cuts deep, not because of what they're laughing at, but because you've forgotten how. You trace a line in the grime on the parapet, a little spiral, then a star, then wipe it away before anyone sees. You don't want to look odd. Everyone here is odd in silence. A bird lands nearby, brown plain wet. It fluffs its feathers and chirps once like a test. Then again, louder. Then it flies off. That's the entire story. And somehow it sticks with you. You move to the next watch post. Same view, same wind, different puddles. Someone hands you a boiled root, not an act of kindness, just practical. They had two, you had none. That's arithmetic, not generosity. You bite into it. It's bland, fibrous, earthy. You imagine it once grew in sunlight. That helps, weirdly. Historians still argue whether morale in long sieges was better preserved in smaller castles with tighter bonds or larger ones with more resources. You think it depends on the weather. A child cries somewhere. Not many left in here anymore. Most were sent out early with luck and prayers. But one or two remain, echoes of a different life. The crying fades, either comforted or silenced. You don't want to know which. The sun comes out briefly, just long enough to make everything steam. The walls weep, your clothes cling. You miss being dry. More than you miss being free, you speak to someone for the first time all day. Just one sentence. Do you think they'll wait us out? The other person shrugs. That's the whole conversation. You climb higher up the spiral steps to a lookout point no one likes. It's windy and exposed. You go anyway. The view gives you something new to look at, even if it's just trees. Below you see smoke from the enemy cook fires. You imagine what they're eating. Probably not much better than you, but probably warmer. And with spices. A guard up there tells you a joke about monks and chickens. You don't laugh. Not because it's not funny, but because your face forgot how. You smile, though. That counts. Time drips by, like water through a crack. And still, the siege goes on. Section 20. You wake in the middle of the night because something moved. Not loudly, just enough. The sort of rustle that doesn't make sound so much as presence. You lie still holding your breath, heart ticking a little faster. It's not fear, it's instinct. You've been living on nerves for weeks now, and they twitch like they're on their own payroll. Outside there's wind, not a dramatic storm, just long, low gusts brushing the stone like a sigh. You listen to it and imagine the breath of the earth, tired and unsure of what to do next. That's how everything feels now. You step outside your little nook. Everything smells like wet wool and mildew. Someone nearby is snoring. Someone else is murmuring in their sleep. The night watch is above you, walking slowly, their boots tapping in uneven rhythms. 1. Pause. 2. Shuffle. You count it like a lullaby. Mainstream historical fact, nighttime during medieval sieges was often the most vulnerable time. Small raids, scaling attempts, or sabotage could strike while defenders slept. But most nights were like this long, still thick, with the tension of nothing happening. You walk down the corridor and peek through the arrow slit. No fire, no movement in the enemy camp. Just a few torches flickering in the distance like will-o'-the-wisps floating in place. The rest is a black ocean of trees and tents and hunger. And back inside, you feel the stones. Your hands are always reaching out now for heat, for walls, for proof you're still here. The stones are cold and slick, but solid. That counts for something. Someone left a candle half burned. You sit by it and watch the wick flicker. It's strange, but you feel comfort in the way it dances, erratic, but alive. A rat scurries by your foot, and you don't even flinch. You nod at it, like passing an acquaintance on the street. Neither of you are happy to be here, but both of you are surviving. Quirky tidbits, some siege defenders trained pigeons to carry messages in and out of the walls, though often the birds got confused and ended up delivering urgent military secrets to someone's barn. Historians still argue whether these failures were due to poor training or pigeons just having better things to do. You hum a tune your mother used to sing. It's out of place here, too gentle for war, but it hums back to you in the echoes. You think about the last time someone touched your hair without checking for lice. Strange thought. Oddly tender. There's a scratching at the wall. Maybe it's wind, maybe it's time. Maybe it's your mind asking for an exit. You press your forehead to the stone and just rest there. It doesn't speak back, but it doesn't push you away either. Another bell rings. You've stopped counting which one. They all mean the same thing. Wake, work, walk, wait. Someone mutters a prayer. Not loudly, not for show. Just a tired whisper from the bunk across. You don't believe in much anymore, but you let the sound pass through you. If hope is contagious, maybe you caught a little. You're called back to the gate, not for battle, just to be seen, just to look like a presence. Even a shadow is better than an empty space. You stand there with others. No one talks. It's like being part of a painting. Rain dots your cloak again. The fabric darkens, but you don't move. Someone drops a bucket. Everyone flinches. That's the loudest thing that's happened in hours. The boy next to you sways. You catch his elbow gently. He nods. That's it. That's kindness now. Silent nods and shared balance. You think about what you'll do when this ends. Eat a hot pie. Lie on grass. Sleep without dreaming of stairs. But you don't hold on to those thoughts too tightly. They slip if you grip them too hard. The night deepens. You are fading too. Not in a sad way. Just softening, becoming part of the silence. And still the siege goes on. And now, nothing more is asked of you. The siege continues somewhere behind your eyes, but here in this quiet moment, you are allowed to leave it. No more gates, no more boots on stone, just stillness. Let your arms fall gently to your sides. Release the tension behind your neck. Loosen the jaw you didn't know was clenched. Breathe in slowly. Hold it. And exhale like a sigh that no longer needs to reach anyone. The torches are gone now. The fires have burned out. Even the watchmen have turned to silhouettes. No one is counting hours anymore. You are not hungry here, not cold, not waiting. You are simply floating, held softly in the hush of sleep, like a body drifting down a slow, warm river with no end. If your mind still stirs, it's okay. Let it wander gently. Let the thoughts come like footsteps on a mossy floor, quiet and slow. Tomorrow will come on its own. But for now, the walls hold you. The sky above is wide and still, and you are safe within the story. Sleep well. You made it through.